Well, that's what we call a good sign. Hello one and all. Today we're going to be doing a little bit more work on the Gravely. What I got in front of me, for those in the know, is a Chinese clone of a Yanmar L100, which is a 10 horse, about 20 foot-pound diesel motor. And I'm going to put this onto my Gravely Model Li. Previously, I have repowered this engine with a 10 horse Briggs. That's what's sitting right there. But that Briggs has had a long and hard life as a go-kart race engine before hitting here, including blowing up a motor. So the motor blew up, we honed it out as best we could and rebuilt it, and it survived for a while on the Gravely, but now it's no moss, it's dead. So took it off, and now I'm looking to stick that 10 horse diesel on it. I think that'll be a better fit for the motor. So even though this Gravely is currently set up to accept one of these Briggs repowers, there's a couple of issues with it. This motor really wanted to be running at like 4,000 RPM when it was going, and if you were snow blowing, you hit a big patch of snow, it would dog it pretty bad. So while it was a good motor and it's set up to run again, I just want to fit it to a diesel. The original Gravely T-heads ran at about 2,600 RPM, and that is much better suited to a diesel than what we've got here. So we're gonna go ahead. We finished up that Yanmar, got it all together, and now we just gotta fix up this adapter plate so it can go. So what I have here is an adapter plate that I made to fit this this Briggs. It's made out of a Volkswagen Rabbit brake rotor, and that works pretty well. As you can see, its diameter fits very nicely. And on top of that, I just have a couple of pieces of scrap steel going up to hold up my handlebars, and just a little stiffening bar right between them. That worked pretty well. So I put these tabs on, might have to cut them off. But as it stands, this is what you need to mount up one of these Briggs motors. I've made this previously. I'll put a link into this video for the original Briggs repower, and you can see how I did that and how we got to this point. So in front of me right here is the Yanmar clone. It is a 418cc air-cooled diesel. I fished this out of a generator. If you want a little bit more information, I guess I'll link that video of the rebuild as well. But like I said, this is about a 10 horse. I've already done a little bit of the adapting work. Oh, there it is. I did that down at Diesel Dave's farm, and his grandpa lent me a hand. And you know, grandpa's a bit of an old timer. I appreciate his help. And doing the GoPro and a vlog, well, I think that might have just been enough to put him over the edge. So I went ahead and made this off camera. This little piece that mounts to the tapered shaft of this Yanmar clone, that's all stock. And then what I have here is the shaft of the stator. This came off of a generator. So I took out that generator stator and I just ripped all the plates out, ripped all the copper out, got it down to just a shaft and cut it here. This gear right here is a stock Gravely Model L gear. I just had that thing stripped down and machined a little bit to mate in here. And then this is the pilot shaft. I cut that down a little bit in order to hold this nut in place. Why did I do it this way? Well, plain and simple, it's easier and it was cheaper. So the easiest thing would have been to have taken this shaft and machined it down. It's like 1 1/8. Machined it down to 1 inch and cut a keyway in it. I previously took this motor apart and got that operation quoted, and it was like 800 bucks at one place and 950 bucks at another place. So obviously that's pretty cost prohibitive for a motor that I got for $150. That's just not worth it. I'd get just a brand new Yanmar pretty much at that point. We tore apart that generator in order to get this piece. I also feel that most of these kinds of motors, you're gonna find them on a generator of some kind. This video is gonna be of any help to you. It'll probably be using the most common type of engine, which from what I've seen is these tapered shaft ones. So this sticks out considerably more than the Briggs motor did, this input shaft. So what I got here is another Volkswagen brake rotor, and what that's gonna do, it's gonna go over like this, Gonna bolt the other one up to it, and then we'll have our extra space. This here adapter is probably the star of the show here. You could probably figure out all the rest of it for yourself, but let me just give you some measurements. I don't want to be doing anything too exact. I'm sure these come out of all kinds of different generators, so I don't want to do like this must be the way. So the depth that we're putting this gear at is 4 1/8. So that's how long it's got to be to go through the 2 brake rotors into the Gravely transaxle and into the planetary gear set. So for this pilot shaft we got here, that is about 9/16 to go in. And this here bolt, it is a M10 by 1.25 by 90 millimeter, and I have a lock nut or a lock washer on it. So that's going to be our secret sauce. And going forward, now we just got to get those 2 brake rotors together and get these 2 mated up. So the first thing we're going to want to do is take our brake rotor and get it drilled to match this Yanmar bolt pattern. So that's 1 2 3 4 right there, and thankfully we've got a template right here. This housing piece is what went over like this, so we're gonna lay it down with this little alignment peg serving as our up, and try to get this thing centered as much as possible, which I think is going to be kind of tough, but I'll make it happen and we'll mark it for drilling. All right, so there we go. Our holes are drilled and we've confirmed that it mounts up onto our engine. Now we just got to put it up on the tractor. Okay, let's get our plate on. I ran out of RTV black. All right, let's get the other one on. Then I'm gonna take the nut off and put the Loctite. Okay, we got our plate set up right here. There's 2 bolts ran through it. I went ahead and welded those 2 plates together on top of it being bolted. Over here you can see the bolts. I also put a little tack on the top of each of the bolts. I'd hate for them to come loose and drop into my transaxle. But I only have a 110 welder. I'll admit these aren't great welds. Probably don't have super great penetration. But I did go all the way around, and that'll hopefully help us with any of the leaks. It'll help keep the things together. Now the astute among you might have realized that we don't actually have anything on this surface to seal up against our engine. And you're right. That's why I got this here plate. I salvaged this from my old PC. This is a big thick piece of aluminum. We could stick that right there and that'll provide us a good seal. You might be wondering why I didn't go and grab something that's steel. Well, the simple answer is this is what I had, and this is kind of what I need. The gear engagement isn't quite right as it stands. It needs something between like 1/8 and 3/16, and that's what this is. A little piece of plate. It'll help us shim it outwards. It'll help us seal up against the motor, and it'll be great. We just got to get it cut down, get some holes drilled in it so it'll actually work. Well, here's my plate. I'm really glad it's aluminum, even though I can't weld it together, because I was actually able to drill this big old hole. Anyway, now's the time to see if it fits. Oh, there we go. There's our plate. Managed to bolt up just fine. It was pretty difficult. I might try to find an alternate way to mount it, because lining it up needed 2 people. Added these 4 bolts on. That'll keep our plate in place, so I don't need someone to line up both the plate and the adapter. This will be held onto the motor. Probably won't take it off for, well, anything. So, looking pretty good. So here's how the swap works. The first thing you want to do is put in your spacer ring. This is a 7.5 by 1/4 by 1/4 ring that I cut this top out of, and that is so that it'll stay spring loaded in while I'm assembling. And this is really important. If you don't have this spacer in there, you're not going to be able to engage your clutch. If the clutch doesn't just fall straight out, it needs to have this spot to press up against. In the stock Gravely T-head, that piece is cast into the motor. Since we're getting rid of that, we got to put something else in there instead. Next up, our 2 Volkswagen brake rotors. Now we got that on, let's do one last measurement for our gear penetration. Do that. Let's go all the way back. There we go. 4 5/8 it looks like. Now over here we got our plate. Let's see how far in that protrudes. 4 9/16. Actually, that's perfect. You don't want to put this thing too far in, otherwise this sun gear is going to press up against the planetary and you'll be locked in place. So having a little bit of leeway is good. All right, here we go. This thing's just about level as a cart. Okay, we got it on there. Now I've already done this, but looks like we did actually bottom out the sun gear, which sucks because I thought all my measurement was perfect, like a dumb engineer. Anyway, we got to take this apart. I'm probably going to shim it out where I have the aluminum plate because this isn't going to work the way it is. So I think what's happened here was when I welded this up, I got a little too hot on one side and my adapter plate isn't quite lined up, which is a bummer. But I got a couple of shims here I'm gonna put there, and that's gonna make up the difference. So it took a lot of on and off to get to this point. Also, I'm putting a ton because, you know, with these spacers, they're gonna work. They're gonna get me the distance I need, but they're not gonna get me a great seal. So right around here, just gonna just lather it all up. Yummy. It's a good thing I got a brand new tube of that stuff. Since we're so sure of how this is gonna go, Loctite red. So here we go, we're all bolted up. I also welded up an exhaust. This is my first full complete exhaust, if you can tell by the quality of the welds. But it's no worse than the original welds for this old Aurora generator, so I'm pretty happy. And I even got this little chrome tip. We are as the Inuit. We are reusing every little bit of this metaphorical seal that we could possibly get. But now there's no putting it off. Let's see if it fires up. So we got our fuel filled up. We got this from stop to on, and we got it from stop to run. Now we got to crack this injector line. Drop that. Let her go till she squirts. There we go, we're squirting out our injector line. That was probably way too much. Well, that's what we call a good sign. The exhaust is bouncing all over the place. That's making most of that noise. So, as you can see, it started smoking a little hard. And then now it's really hard to pull this thing. I don't know what happened. Thank you, church. Now it's really hard to pull it. I don't think it is on the engine side. I think it's on the Gravely side. I did see a little bit of oil vapor coming out of here. I thought that was just because it was close to the exhaust. Hopefully I didn't accidentally turn all of my oil into water. Oh, it sucks. Sucks even more. It's not very far from the garage, but this thing's like 400 or 500 pounds. So I'm feeling around here. There's a clutch up here. That's okay. I mean, the engine isn't too warm either. But right here is pretty hot. This is where the high-low clutch is. But not too sure what's going on. My guess would be that I'm running this motor at too high of an RPM, because in the generator it was governed to 3600, and you know, I tried to back it off a little bit. I don't have a tachometer or anything, so I'm just kind of listening. Maybe I should back it off a little bit more. Well, I think I'd call that a success. I've got a couple of kinks to work out of it. I didn't really hang the exhaust up very well. It's just with wires temporarily. I've got a little bit of a leak. You can see it right there. Got a little teeny tiny leak. And it did kind of overheat. It didn't seem to overheat the motor. From what I could tell when I touched here before, it was really hot. I fired it up before, or I fired it up again just enough to take it back into the garage. And now I would say it's like hot to the touch, but it's still cooler than the engine itself. So not too sure what's going on there. The one in front, touch right by where this clutch is, it's not really hot at all. It's like barely warm. This is, you know, hot, but not unpleasant. And the motor is, you know, hot to unpleasant. So I'm not too sure. I didn't really go and feel up my Gravely too much when I had the other engine on it, so I'm not too sure if that's okay. But gonna have to look into it. Since I got that leak, I'm gonna have to take the motor off anyway. I'll take a look at the gear wear, see if I've got anything going on what makes it crooked, and I'll report back. But for now, got myself a diesel Gravely. Another thing is, I did take this and adjust it down about as low as it can go while still running, and I'm not sure about it. I don't have a tachometer to actually be able to tell what RPM I'm running at, but you know, it's as low as I can get without it stopping altogether. And you know, that's what left me with this only kind of warm clutch. But I only came back and maybe mowed for like a minute just to double check it, and I took it back inside. So if you're more familiar with these Yanmar things, I'd like to know how I can adjust the RPM a little bit better. I'm gonna probably grab like a cheap little magnetic tack just to take a look at it. But for now, that's how you do it. I'm willing to bet that you wouldn't have these problems if you were able to line up your holes and get it straight. Anyway, I hope this was informative. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this thing. But until then, take it easy and shoots.